What's up everyone, OJ here, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about how freaking incredible Astral Chain is on the Nintendo Switch. I got done with a huge gameplay session recently, live streamed it for you guys, and I do have to say there are a number of things that I absolutely love about Astral Chain, things that I still have to kind of come to grips with the game and the controls and the mechanics, and this is literally one of the greatest games that I have played on the Nintendo Switch. And I do have to say, and I think I can say this with confidence, this is the coolest game on the Nintendo Switch, just from a cool factor. Looking at the aesthetics, looking at the combat, look at what you can do, the cutscenes, everything. This game has all of the drip and the style that no other game on the Nintendo Switch and no other game on any other platform that's been released this gen or even last gen. This is by far the coolest game. There's just so many great things about it. But let's talk a little bit more about what makes Astral Chain the perfect Platinum Games title. Not that the game is perfect and doesn't have any faults at all, but the perfect game that encapsulates what Platinum Games is all about. And I do have to say is the action, the combat, the gameplay. First and foremost, this game is going to take you on a wild ride. From the very minute you boot this game up, you are thrown into a character creator, and then you are thrown into straight up action. You are going through on this motorcycle, you're blowing things up, you're jumping over stuff, and then from there you kind of methodically make your way through the beginning parts of the game, learning how to fight with that, the training and everything. It really kind of takes you through at a pace that's not slow, so you're not like, okay, well, this is taking forever to get through the intro of the game, but at a pace that's still kind of enough and sufficient to not feel too fast. So it's not too slow, it's not too fast, it's just right. And when you finally do get that Legion and you start battling, it's like they waste no time. You're already thrown into boss battles, you're thrown into detective work, you're thrown into tough fights from the very beginning, where I was getting C's and D's when it comes down to the ranking, which was just interesting in its own right. A couple different bosses got clapped a little bit with some one-hit kills on them, and I'm playing on the hardest difficulty available at the moment, hardest difficulty there, so you get 2 revives. Then if you can't do it, then you have to restart the file. So luckily I didn't have to do that, but I do want to talk a little bit more about what makes this game kind of tick when it comes to the combat and how it intertwines with the aesthetics and the story. So the thing that I said on my stream, what I've seen from Astral Chain more so than any other game, is that the aesthetics, the combats, and really just the look of it, the drawing, the story, everything ties in together more perfectly than I've seen for any other game. More than Fire Emblem, more than Mario Maker, more than any other game, any of the big or good games that's been released this year, Devil May Cry, any of that. The aesthetics, how it looks, how it ties into the game, how the combat is, the Ghost in the Shell kind of dark but anime aesthetic with the combat and how it looks and the flashiness of it is just the best that I've seen. The best that I've seen for pretty much any game released this year. It really has this unique style to it that just makes it look so different than what we've seen before. But once you start playing and you start getting the hold of like the different legions and you start kind of going through, you start realizing that, yo, this is something completely different. This is a game that really takes what Platinum Games has done over the course of like 10 years, dating all the way back to Bayonetta originally, and not really playing like that, but just kind of taking some of the style, but really intertwining it with a lot of other games like a Nier, like a Wonderful 101. And that game, Wonderful 101, it didn't get as much spotlight as a game like Nier or Bayonetta, but it does have its influences when it comes to the different things that you can do in this game. So if you are a Wonderful 101 fan, there's not, I guess, a lot of people out there just because of the game sales, but if you did play Wonderful 101, or if you did like the concept, this game is a lot more like that than people are kind of talking about, because they're looking at it from an aesthetic standpoint, and obviously the Wonderful 101 doesn't look anything like this one, but I couldn't help but feel with the different form changing and the pace of combat and kind of how it controlled, because a lot was said about Bayonetta, right, and how this game kind of is like, oh, it's like Bayonetta, right, and it's like, no, not really, you know, no, not really. It's not really like Bayonetta when it comes to the combat, the feel, the flow of the game. It's It's not like a Devil May Cry. It's not like a Bayonetta. It's almost more like a Nier and a Wonderful 101. There's some aspects here and there. I mean, you do have like the slowing down of the time when you get an attack and then you can counter, but it's not really witch time to where you can kind of move around normally and then the enemy is just slowing down. You can just get like a nice little attack afterwards, which the timing on that is a little bit harder because the game is 30 frames per second and not 60 frames per second. So you do have to time that a little bit better when it comes to your attacks. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of goes through your mind with this game and the combat. It's so in depth, but at the same time, it is simple, right? Simply, you're just kind of pressing one button, right? You just have that combat, you're pressing one button, your Legion is attacking on its own, but then there's all sorts of other stuff that you can do. Like, for example, wrapping the chain and binding someone, which I did too many times, which it'll weaken overpower by binding them, they can break out quickly. But besides that, but wrapping them up, being able to kind of use them as like a clothesline and have enemies get kind of bopped when they kind of go in and get them clotheslined and thrown off, which was a strategy in one of the boss battles that I had, to kind of just using your Legion in tactics with getting like the sync attacks as well, which you do learn too, which kind of just take to like another level when it comes to the flashiness and the style and how that ties into it. There's so many different things as I was playing the game that I was trying to keep track of, even though the game is simple enough to play when it comes down to it, when it comes to the dodging and the combat. And it's a great thing for me to say, and you know what, I don't know why I have to talk about this, but after Devil May Cry 5, the fact that you can actually do omnidirectional dodging, which is something that I thought that should be in every single game, like anytime you press a direction and the dodge button, they dodge in that direction. Well, yeah, you can actually do that in this one, so that was definitely a good thing. 2 thumbs up on that end. But the more of the combat that I played and kind of I got to get a hang of what was kind of going on there, making sure that you take away your Legion and then making sure that they recharge, stuff like that, keeping tabs on your health, trying to get some critical hits, switching between your baton gun and the baton itself. It's just so many different things layer on top, and that is even before I got some of the other Legion types. That was just with the one Legion that I had. So you can imagine as you get your different Legions and to where you can switch, it's just going to keep on layering on top and on top. Another really cool thing is that after you kind of beat the stuff, right, like you have like the red matter pickup, you have all sorts of other things that you can do to make sure that you can kind of go back. So there's replay value in getting all the collectibles and finding different stuff. And heck, there was even one mission at the beginning of the game to where I had to hand toilet paper to a fairy in the bathroom. Yeah, that was an actual mission that was happening here, and it was a lot more fun than what we saw in Death Stranding and peeing on like grass to make magic mushrooms. I can tell you that right now. So I'm loving what they're doing with the side quests, with the structure of the game, with the combat, with the graphics. Like I said, there is not a game that I've played from Platinum Games at all, and I've played pretty much every single Platinum Games title, especially all of their big or main games. There's not another game that I have played that ties everything in together, from the gameplay, the combat, the story, the style, the look of it. Everything just flows and syncs up. Like I talked about before, there are some things that 30 frames per second compared to the 60 makes it to where the gameplay isn't quite as smooth as like a Bayonetta, for example. So dodging is going to take a little bit more foresight than what you could do on a Bayonetta, but at the same time, there's still so many great things with this combat system that are new, unique, and fresh. Everyone's always talking about Nintendo does this over and over and over again, but this is the type of game that we should all go and support from Nintendo, because they're the ones who actually had some direction in this. Yes, Platinum Games developed it for the most part, but Nintendo actually helped design some of the concepts in terms of the focus and the direction of the game and what they were going to do, the high octane action and kind of what they were focusing on. So it's just amazing that they're able to pull this game off on the Nintendo Switch. And kind of the last thing that I want to discuss is, holy smokes, does this game look good. It is easily one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch, if not the best looking game on the platform. It really does look that sharp. The textures are good, the detail is good in the characters. full voice acting for the most part, but pretty much every single character has some nice voice acting in there. You have upgrades after you're done with the missions. You can actually get leveling up like your commander rating or your officer or police rating and stuff like that. You're going to be able to unlock new equipment that you can use, so there's customization in that way, different types of weapons and stuff. And one of the coolest games in the last decade or so, easy, hands down. It really is a joy to play, and the more you play it and the more you get used to the controls and to the combat and kind of like what you're doing in there, the more you're just going to love the game, and it's going to shoot up your favorite games to play list or most unique games, because it looks like a standard action game, but once you start playing, you start realizing this is nothing of that at all. This is something that's completely unique. Despite the controls being very simple, it's going to get more and more in depth, I can already tell, and I can't wait to play more of it. So what do you guys think about Astral Chain here? It's out worldwide for everybody to pick up. Some of you guys might have not gotten it yet. What are your thoughts on the gameplay so far? What are your thoughts on the game in general? What other people are saying? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future, and subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.